What you're about to witness might be the most controversial, jaw-dropping, and absolutely insane moment in Monday Night Raw history. Dominik Mysterio, the man who turned his back on his legendary father, the man who broke the hearts of millions, the man who chose darkness over legacy, just got down on one knee in the middle of that squared circle and proposed to Liv Morgan. And if you think you know how this story ends, think again, because what happened next will leave you absolutely speechless. But before we dive into the chaos, the drama, and the absolute nuclear explosion that just occurred on Raw, we need to understand how we got here. Because this isn't just a proposal. This isn't just a wrestling angle. This is the culmination of betrayal, obsession, forbidden love, and a family torn apart at the seams. So buckle up, because we're about to take you on a journey through one of the most twisted, controversial, and emotionally charged storylines WWE has ever given us. Let's rewind the clock. Not too long ago, Dominik Mysterio was the good guy. He was the son carrying on his father's legacy, the next generation of lucha libre excellence, the young star with unlimited potential and the respect of the entire WWE Universe. He stood side by side with Rey Mysterio, his legendary father, fighting the good fight, representing honor, family, and tradition. The crowd loved him. The future was bright. Everything seemed perfect. But then Rhea Ripley entered his life. And everything changed. The nightmare, the dominant force of nature, the woman who exudes power and control, she saw something in Dominik. She saw potential. She saw darkness waiting to be unleashed. And slowly, methodically, she began to corrupt him. She pulled him away from his father. She whispered poison in his ear. She made him believe that being good was being weak, that following in his father's footsteps was living in his shadow, that to truly become a star, he needed to embrace the darkness. And Dominik listened. He turned on Rey Mysterio in one of the most heartbreaking betrayals WWE has ever seen. Father and son, legacy and rebellion, tradition and chaos, all colliding in the most painful way imaginable. The WWE Universe watched in horror as Dominik attacked his own father, aligning himself with the Judgment Day, embracing Rhea Ripley not just as a mentor but as something more, something that made the entire wrestling world uncomfortable and captivated all at once. For months, Dominik and Rhea were inseparable. They were the power couple of the Judgment Day. She was the dominant force, and he was her loyal disciple, her prized possession, the nature of their relationship was always walking that line between professional partnership and something far more personal. The crowd chanted vile things at Dominik. He reveled in being the most hated man in WWE. And through it all, Rhea was by his side. But then came the injury. Rhea Ripley, seemingly invincible, was suddenly sidelined. And in her absence, a void appeared. Dominik was lost without his mommy. The Judgment Day continued, but something was missing. The dynamic had shifted. And that's when Liv Morgan saw her opportunity. Liv Morgan, the scrappy fighter, the woman who had been obsessed with revenge against Rhea Ripley, she didn't just want to take Rhea's championship. She wanted to take everything from her. And what better way to destroy the nightmare than to take the one thing she valued most? Dominik Mysterio himself. What followed was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Liv began to circle Dominik like a predator stalking prey. She was subtle at first. A glance here, a comment there, planting seeds of doubt and temptation. She knew Dominik was vulnerable without Rhea. She knew he was confused, conflicted, missing that dominant presence in his life. And Liv positioned herself as the perfect replacement, the exciting new chapter, the forbidden fruit. And Dominik, whether through genuine attraction, manipulation, or sheer stupidity, he fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. The moment Liv Morgan kissed Dominik Mysterio on live television, the wrestling world exploded. Social media went into meltdown. Wrestling fans everywhere were divided. Some saw it as brilliant storytelling. Others saw it as Dominik making the dumbest decision of his life. But everyone, and I mean everyone, knew that when Rhea Ripley returned, there would be hell to pay. The relationship between Liv and Dominik developed rapidly. They were inseparable. Liv captured the Women's World Championship, cementing her plan to take everything from Rhea. And Dominik, blinded by whatever spell Liv had cast over him, stood by her side, proclaiming his love, his loyalty, his devotion to his new mommy. The WWE Universe watched this car crash in slow motion. We all knew how this would end. We all knew Rhea would return. We all knew there would be consequences. But Dominik and Liv seemed to exist in their own little bubble, convinced they had won, convinced they had outsmarted everyone, convinced their love was real and unstoppable. And then came this week's Monday Night Raw. the night everything changed. The night Dominik Mysterio decided to go all in. The show was electric from the start. The crowd was hot. The anticipation was palpable. And when Dominik's music hit, when he walked out with that smug grin on his face, holding a microphone in one hand and a small box in the other, the arena collectively lost its mind. Because everyone immediately knew what was about to happen. Dominik stood in that ring, basking in the booze, feeding off the hatred, and he called out Liv Morgan. He told the world that she had changed his life, that she had shown him what real love was, that she had proven to be everything Rhea Ripley never could be. The crowd was merciless, chanting things that can't be repeated in a family-friendly video, but Dominik didn't care. He was locked in. Then Liv's music hit, and she walked down that ramp absolutely glowing. She knew what was coming. The smile on her face, the confidence in her stride, she was savoring every second of this moment. She climbed into the ring, and Dominik took her hands in his. The arena was deafening with boos, but in that ring, it was like they were the only two people in the world. Dominik began his speech. He talked about destiny. He talked about finding true love in the chaos of WWE. He talked about building a future together, about being the most powerful couple in wrestling history, about ruling WWE side by side. And then, in a moment that will be replayed and debated for years to come, Dominik Mysterio got down on one knee. He opened that box. A ring glistened under the arena lights. And he asked Liv Morgan to marry him. The crowd's reaction was split between shock, disgust, and a strange sense of investment in this absolute train wreck of a storyline. Some fans were screaming no. Others were recording every second. Everyone was on the edge of their seats. Liv Morgan, with tears in her eyes that could have been genuine emotion or the greatest acting performance of her career, she looked down at Dominik. The moment stretched out, time seeming to slow down. And then, with the biggest smile on her face, she screamed yes. Dominik slid the ring onto her finger. They embraced in the center of the ring. Confetti didn't fall because WWE knew better than to celebrate this moment like a fairytale. This wasn't a fairytale. This was a horror story waiting for its final chapter. And then they kissed, sealing their engagement in front of millions of viewers and thousands of fans who couldn't decide whether to boo or just watch in stunned silence. But here's where it gets even crazier. Because just when you thought this moment couldn't get any more intense, just when you thought Dominik and Liv had their happy ending, the Titantron flickered. The lights dimmed. And a message appeared that sent chills down everyone's spine. I'm coming home. 3 words. That's all it took. 3 words to remind Dominik Mysterio that he just made the biggest mistake of his life. 3 words that promised vengeance, destruction, and a reckoning unlike anything WWE has seen. Because everyone knows who's coming home. Everyone knows the nightmare isn't done with Dominik Dirty Dom Mysterio. Rhea Ripley is returning. And when she does, Dominik and Liv's fairytale engagement is going to turn into an absolute nightmare. The look on Dominik's face when that message appeared was priceless. The color drained from his skin. His eyes went wide. Liv tried to play it cool, tried to maintain her composure, but you could see the fear creeping in. They had been living in denial, pretending Rhea wouldn't matter, pretending they could just move on. But that message was a wake-up call. The reckoning is coming. And let's talk about what this means for WWE going forward. Because this isn't just a storyline, this is a potential WrestleMania-level program. Imagine Rhea Ripley returning with a vengeance, targeting both Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio. Imagine the matches, the confrontations, the absolute chaos that's about to unfold. Liv is the Women's World Champion. Rhea will want that title back. But more than that, she'll want revenge. The psychology of this storyline is absolutely brilliant. Dominik betrayed his father for Rhea, then betrayed Rhea for Liv. He's a man who has proven he has no loyalty, no honor, only self-interest and weakness. And now he's engaged to a woman who specifically targeted him to hurt someone else. This relationship is built on manipulation, revenge, and betrayal. There's no way this ends well for anyone involved. Some fans are speculating that Liv might be playing Dominik the entire time. That this has always been about hurting Rhea, and Dominik is just a pawn in a much bigger game. Others believe Liv genuinely has feelings for Dominik, making this even more complicated. And then there's Dominik himself, who might be too blinded by his own ego to see that he's being used by everyone around him. The engagement itself raises so many questions. Will WWE actually go through with a wedding? Can you imagine the chaos of a Dominik and Liv Morgan wedding ceremony on Raw? The interruptions, the betrayals, the absolute carnage that would ensue? And what about Rey Mysterio? How does he feel watching his son not only turn his back on his family but now planning to marry the woman who's been manipulating him for months? This storyline has layers. It has depth. It has consequences that will ripple through WWE for months, possibly years to come. And that's what makes it so compelling. This isn't just a random romance angle. This is a multi-layered story of betrayal, manipulation, revenge, and the consequences of choosing darkness over light. The WWE Universe is absolutely divided on this. Some fans love the drama, love the chaos, love how uncomfortable and compelling this storyline is. Others think it's gone too far, that it's too soap opera-like, that wrestling should be about competition, not romantic entanglements. But here's the thing, whether you love it or hate it, you're talking about it. You're invested. You want to see what happens next. And that's the mark of effective storytelling. When Rhea Ripley returns, and make no mistake she will return, the explosion is going to be legendary. The Nightmare versus Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship with Dominik caught in the middle. The mind games, the physical confrontations, the emotional warfare. This has the potential to be one of the most memorable feuds in recent WWE history. And let's not forget the Judgment Day in all of this. How does the rest of the faction feel about Dominik's engagement? Are they supportive? Are they concerned? Does this create tension within the group? Every decision Dominik makes has ripple effects, and this engagement might be the decision that finally tears everything apart. The proposal itself was executed perfectly from a storytelling perspective. The setting, the timing, the crowd reaction, everything came together to create a moment that will be talked about for a long time. Love it or hate it, you can't deny that it was memorable. Dominik and Liv committed fully to the moment, selling every emotion, every word, every gesture. But beneath the spectacle, beneath the romance, beneath the engagement ring and the declarations of love, there's a darker truth. Dominik Mysterio is a man running from his past, desperately trying to create a new identity, using relationships as a shield against his own insecurities. Liv Morgan is a woman driven by revenge and ambition, willing to use anyone and anything to achieve her goals. And Rhea Ripley is a force of nature who doesn't forgive, doesn't forget, and is about to remind everyone why she's called the Nightmare. The coming weeks on Monday Night Raw are going to be absolutely unmissable. Every segment, every appearance, every interaction between these characters is going to be loaded with tension and anticipation. The storytelling possibilities are endless. The matches are going to be incredible. And the emotional payoff, when it finally comes, is going to be worth every minute of investment. This is why we love professional wrestling. Yes, it's scripted. Yes, it's predetermined. But when the storytelling is this good, when the characters are this compelling, when the stakes feel this real, it doesn't matter. We're invested. We care. We want to see justice served, consequences delivered, and storylines resolved. Dominik Mysterio just proposed to Liv Morgan on Monday Night Raw in one of the most controversial and talked about segments of the year. But this isn't an ending. This is just the beginning of what promises to be an absolutely explosive chapter in WWE history. The engagement is set. The players are in position. And the Nightmare is coming home. So what did you think of Dominik's proposal? Do you think Liv genuinely loves him or is she playing the long game? How do you think Rhea Ripley is going to respond when she returns? And most importantly, how do you see this storyline ending? Drop your predictions in the comments below because this conversation is just getting started. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the craziest moments on Raw, show some love by hitting that like button. It helps us continue bringing you the most in-depth wrestling analysis and coverage. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already because we're going to be following this storyline every step of the way, and you don't want to miss a single development. And turn on those notifications so you're always first to know when we drop new content. The wrestling world just witnessed something unforgettable. Dominik Mysterio and Liv Morgan are engaged. Rhea Ripley is returning. And chaos is about to reign supreme on Monday Night Raw. This is the kind of storytelling that reminds us why we fell in love with professional wrestling in the first place. The drama, the emotion, the unpredictability, the spectacle. It's all here. And it's only going to get more intense from here. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep following the chaos, keep enjoying the drama, and never forget that in WWE, anything can happen. And I mean anything.